Hello guys, welcome to our channel and to our new talk show podcasting that we got going on. Just gonna start with a quick introduction here. My name is Carlos and my online nick is Devulus, so if you see me in game, say hi. And I'm sort of the producer, director, editor, audio engineer, whatever you want to call me on this channel. I mean, hopefully in the future I'll be able to put out some gameplay videos of my own. But so far we got another guy for that shop and he's gonna introduce himself now.
Hi guys, I'm Jay. You might already know me from the Outer Worlds Let's Play we're doing right now. And I have some channel news, and we're changing our uploading schedule a bit. Been uploading from Monday to Friday Let's Play videos for right now, and we're planning to change it so that they come out on Mondays, Wednesdays and Thursdays.
So we'll be uploading those Let's Play videos throughout the weekdays, and then for weekends we're planning to do a sort of a completion video every other week, which is gonna include mostly like online video games we play, you know, Battlefield, CSGO and that kind of stuff for now. And then on every other week we're gonna be doing this sort of a talk show thing. Hopefully we'll be able to juggle those alongside the regular sort of Let's Plays.
Yeah, and this talk show is gonna be on gaming world, what goes on, what games are coming, hyping games that are coming, for example, this year, and things like that. If you don't want to miss any content, click subscribe and allow those notifications so you'll be alerted when new content arrives. But now we must move on onto our topic, which is Mass Effect franchise, considering the first 3 games, Andromeda, and then some news and speculation on Mass Effect 5. So, Mass Effect franchise, Carlos, what your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I gotta say I was quite late on the whole hype train on it. Well, actually not hype train, more like the whole train of the games, because I started them around, the first time I played through them was like 2015, I think. So it's quite late, seeing that Mass Effect 3 came out 2012, if I recall correctly. So, but they're good games. I mean, one of the like my favorite game series. I've yet to play, obviously, the latest game, so that could affect my opinion on like the series as a whole. But when I'm talking about like Mass Effect games, for me that means like the first 3 for now, and they're some of the best games I've played, and definitely hold up.
Yeah, the original trilogy, I've played it through 3 or 4 times, and to myself, it's one of the greatest series I've ever played. I admit, the original trilogy has its flaws, but let's take Mass Effect 1 first under the microscope. You came into the series late, like you said, 2015. Yeah. What were your thoughts about game number 1?
Yeah, so obviously I wanted to start at the beginning, because when you're talking about like a game series where the story goes from one to the other, you know, I want to start from the first one. And obviously, seeing that the first game came out in like 2007, it had age.
No. You're wrong. It came out 2007 November, yes, but only for Xbox. It was 2008, beginning of 2008. It came to PC and the other consoles.
Well, surely it still would be called an 07 game. Like if a movie came out in like a film festival, you'd say it came out that year, wouldn't you?
No, you're just simply wrong.
All right. My apologies.
It's 2008. Yeah, but
we'll add air quotation marks 2008. You can't see them, but I'm doing like air quotation marks right now. But anyway, it was obviously a bit like as far as like the graphics and gameplay, I think they were quite like, you could see it's a product of its time. You know, when it didn't have, it was quite like streamlined. You don't have that many different kind of combat options or whatever. If I had played it earlier, maybe I would have appreciated it a bit more. But that being said, still think it's a really solid game, and it's like I know a lot of people might like be off-put by the graphics, and might want to skip it, like go straight ahead to the second game or something, which I don't think is a really good idea. I don't think it's that badly aged. Like,
Yeah, no. Well, if you think about the first game, the combat system in the game, well, to be frank, it wasn't good.
no.
Driving the Mako around the planets, that was just horrible.
It got quite repetitive when you keep doing it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing, in my mind, which is the most important thing in Mass Effect 1, is the story, the revelation of all the things. If you jump straight to the game 2, you kind of miss things in the story. Sure, they give you a short recap of what's happened, but you cannot dive into the story out from the second game. And to me, the story behind the trilogy was the most important thing. When you think about it, the universe they gave you in the first game, if you just start to tear it apart, new planets, new races, new things to learn from the game, it was almost overwhelming experience. They bombarded with you with so much information right from the get-go. That's what makes game number 1 good for me, more than the gameplay itself.
Yeah. I definitely think that that's something that BioWare does with a lot of its games, where like the story writing and characters and stuff like that is where they really nail it, and it can really like sort of carry the game. So you don't have to like. Obviously, I'm not saying that all their games have shitty gameplay or anything, but we'll get to the other games soon. But I think that in a way, you sort of like when you go into these games, you sort of like just immersed in the world. Like sure, you know, in Mass Effect, you sort of get a predefined backstory. You get to choose only from a couple different points, and you know, you don't even really get to name your character. You know, you're gonna be Commander Shepard one way or the other, but still, like, you really feel like you're part of the world, and you get to make your own choices and stuff like that, which I think is like like you said, you know, it's really engrossing, and the world around, the world that they build is really like fleshed out and feels real in that sense.
But let's move to Mass Effect 2, which has to be the best of them all for me.
Absolutely, I agree
as a game. Well. Yeah, the combat system was fixed. It heavily relied on running from cover to cover and killing everything in your way. Basically, there weren't so many tactics you can implement when fighting, but I think the combat system was fixed, and what was good for me, like you said, the driving with the Mako got really old really fast, and they got rid of it, basically.
But to be fair, they replaced it with the whole probing system, which to be fair, it gets old as well. But in general, I think like Mass Effect 2 pretty much took everything from Mass Effect 1 was like, well, I'd say it improved on every aspect of the game. Like even the strongest points of Mass Effect 1, I feel like they fleshed out the characters more. The story really like picked up steam and went ahead, and obviously the graphics were improved quite a bit.
Yeah, the graphics were upgraded heavily, and the story did put immersive things, and through a couple of screwballs also in the story there, you never knew what to expect next. Who's the bad guy? What's the real threat? Who wants to help you? Things like that. And then we can move on to game number 3, Mass Effect 3. Combat system was evolved once again, made better. But if you think about the game really hard, it kinda pushes the story along very fast. Just tries to make it like a movie kind of experience, that it pushes the story forward very, very fast towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. And the end, like obviously Mass Effect 3 being sort of polarizing, in regards to the ending mostly. Like most people are just disappointed in the whole game because of the ending. But for me, it's like the whole story felt a lot more streamlined. You didn't feel like quite. I mean, you were still part of it because you had those 2 games backing up the story, so you still felt like engrossed in the story, but it didn't like help when you were like given less dialogue choices and felt like you were when you were watching cutscenes you had less of an opportunity to engage in things, and it just
Yeah,
took me out of the story a bit.
yeah, that's true. You had your choices, but all in all, how did they really impact the story? Game 1, Game 2, if you played them all in a row,
Yeah.
how did they really impact the story?
And
Okay, I'm not gonna go into details because that's gonna cause spoilers. Well, if somebody hasn't picked up this trilogy yet, please do. It's a great trilogy. It has its flaws, but just try it out. Give it a chance. It's 3 good games.
absolutely.
I think if you're any kind of a sci-fi fan or a fantasy fan or something like that, I'm sure you're gonna enjoy the story of it all.
Yeah, especially if you like played other BioWare games, mainly like the Dragon Age series, which is why I did before I started playing Mass Effect. I was a huge fan of the Dragon Age series, and this is sort of like, well, actually I should say because Mass Effect came out first. I guess Dragon Age is the fantasy version of Mass Effect, but they both you can definitely see the similarities in the games,
Yeah.
the way the story plays out and.
Actually, I went to the internets, and
Oh no.
yeah, I went to the internets, and they're talking about making a remake of the original trilogy with upgraded graphics and more goody stuff. I'm quite excited if they decide to do that.
I mean, I wouldn't mind like sort of a remake, but at the same time, it's like I said, I came in 2015, and I'd still go and play the games. I still say like sure, like it could be like improved on especially the graphics department, but still, you'd rather like want to see them focus on just continuing the series, in my opinion. But I guess
but
usually I know it's usually another studio that does the remakes and stuff like that and different departments, but
still, if they're gonna do a remake, good, probably gonna buy it, probably gonna play through it.
yes.
But then we move on to Andromeda, the game you haven't played.
No, the game that I
have
bought
to play.
on its release date, but I have yet to play. I was like sort of like saving it. Oh, I'll play it when I get to it because I had like I think there was like another game I was playing at the time, and it was like taking my interest.
I think you had a situation that you tried to play all games in Steam library.
Yeah. I had that, like I had so many games I wanted to play through them. So
yeah,
I mean, I'll get to it eventually, I guess. I'll probably have to like play. I because I haven't played like Mass Effect or I've only played it through once, like the whole trilogy. So I'd like to get another one of those in there just to immerse myself in the world before I jump in Andromeda again. So it might take a while. Maybe during the summer, maybe who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, but nobody knows. But do you mind if I talk a bit about Andromeda because I've played it? I'm not gonna spoil anything from you. I'm just gonna say the combat system in the game is the best of Mass Effect games. It offers you so many strategies how to approach the fight. A jetpack system, which allows you more free movement on the battlefield. Tech and power combos, which can be too OP in some situations, but still, it just makes the battling system and combat system and the character building system so much more in depth. But there's also a downside for it because when you realize what tech and power combos cause the most damage, you don't really bother changing your abilities anymore because you just know that this is the best combo. I'm gonna use that the whole game. It's just like playing any other RPG. If you think about Skyrim, for example, you start out the game, you think, now I'm gonna do a playthrough to be a mage, only magic and stuff like that. 2 hours into the gameplay, you just realize I'm sneaking with a bow and being an assassin. Just basically that. But back to Andromeda. I got a bit sidetracked there.
Right.
The story. Nah. The story is okay. But the main thing I kind of missed, and when you play through the story missions, like story missions, they have a feel of a side mission because, well, there isn't just enough meat on the bones on the story missions to make them feel like story missions. So I think that's one of the reasons why people don't like Andromeda that much. But I was doing research to this video, what I learned that Andromeda was started right after Mass Effect 3, which was 2012, right?
Yeah, which is quite common in the game industry, I guess. Like when you're doing a sequel, they usually start like working on it right at the end of the other. Sometimes at the same time, when they're still polishing up the last game.
Yeah. But they started 2012, and the release date was supposed to be 2017, early 2017, which happened to be then late 2017s. But the game was really developed in a year because the team was having good ideas, but they just couldn't let them go. They tried to implement those ideas into Andromeda so hard that they forgot scheduling, forgot testing. They just left everything to die behind those ideas. And a year before the release, basically the whole old team that couldn't get their ideas to work left. A new team in, and they had a year basically from the start, test it and do it, and it was just too hasty. Stupid.
Yeah, I guess the biggest, like, when you look at like people's complaints about the game, I guess obviously one of the biggest one is that it does feel unpolished. It doesn't feel like a major release in one of the biggest game series of all time, and when you like put out a game like that, it takes like credibility away from the studio at that point, which is kind of funny because this whole 1 year development schedule, because they did the same mistake before, like back when BioWare did. I mean, when they released Dragon Age 2, and that game had like an 8 or 10 month development cycle. They really rushed it out, and obviously it did affect like the game reviews and sales. I guess it were a bit weaker than they wanted back in like when Dragon Age 2 came out in 2011, I think. So I guess they didn't learn from their mistake at this point. I mean, obviously they had like an idea of starting it early. They just couldn't like actually do it. So
yeah, and after Andromeda, Anthem.
Yeah, exactly. Andromeda gets its like mixed reviews and poor sale numbers, and then you follow up with the Anthem, and that's not that's not a good look for like any company, I guess.
No.
Definitely not a two pair of, like, I haven't played either game, so I'm not gonna give my personal opinions on them. I'm just going on what people are saying.
I haven't played Anthem either, so I cannot say anything about that. But all in all, it must have been a big hit financially and for the image of BioWare. But on to the big one, Mass Effect 5. Mass Effect 5. It all started late 2019s as Casey Hudson tweeted like this, shown on the screen. We have so many ideas for things we want to do in #Mass Effect. So much concept art that hasn't yet been brought to life, and so many stories yet to tell. N7 Day. That's where it started. 2020. BioWare tweeted, start text when mankind discovered this and this and this and this. And Mass Effect logo just jumps on the screen, and the first game art begins to roll. And later on, an inside report from within BioWare shows that Mass Effect 5 is indeed in very, very early development right now, which is good news.
Obviously, they have a big mountain to climb still, because they're doing not a remake, but they're sort of like rebranding Anthem, I guess, or like doing it improving it or something. Have you read about that?
Yeah, there's some kind of an improvement to Anthem.
Which is, I guess, props to BioWare. They
try to fix something they broke.
They didn't just leave it, on the bad reviews, and they're trying to improve it, and that's good for them. But obviously gonna slow down, I guess, the development of any future games at the time. And then of course the big one, we also have Dragon Age 4 coming up.
No, you cannot expect a release date to come out in 2 months' time. No, it's just not realistic. But let's take it a bit more further into Mass Effect 5 then. What's the key points you're gonna want it to include?
Well, obviously the big one for me is kind of hard to say at this point, since like we talked about earlier, how the story and characters are the big part of BioWare games. So seeing that I haven't played Andromeda, I'm not gonna see if it's gonna continue the story from that, or are they just gonna? Yeah, obviously it would be nice to sort of get a huge new Mass Effect trilogy. I guess you could call it a sequel trilogy. But
like Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, if you like the Star Wars, that's fine. So I guess I want to see them get back to the keep the story the main focus of the thing. And I know obviously we said they've improved the gameplay aspect, the battle systems and everything with each game, which is fine. But it would be nice if they could if they develop a certain combat style on the first game, I'd like them to sort of stick to that. Obviously Mass Effect 2, I'm grateful that they redid the combat system for the first one, since the first one was quite boring, to be frank. But I feel I would have been fine with the Mass Effect 2 combat system in the third game as well. Obviously the engine changes, they had to do them anyway, but I feel they should, and hopefully by not redoing the whole gameplay aspect of the games will allow them to make the new Mass Effect games, if obviously Mass Effect 5 is success enough to warrant a sequel. I hope they'll stick to a nice tight schedule like what they did with the first 3 games.
What I hope that they use in their advantage of making Mass Effect 5 is just to make the players immersively absorb the universe they're gonna create. And hopefully they don't recreate the mistake they made in Andromeda. This is just purely my opinion. But if you think about the original trilogy in game number 1 and 2 and 3, they introduced us to 14 races, human being one. So 13 new races of aliens to interact with. And then they continued to Andromeda and they introduced 3. You get my point? Just the universe needs to be spread out. There must be a lot of races. I hope they don't continue the original story.
No, that'd be a terrible mistake, I think, as well. They even though you can say what you want about the third game's ending, I still feel like they managed to conclude the story satisfyingly enough that just trying to rehash it wouldn't work. So that would be my number one thing about Mass Effect 5. Please do not go back. Do not try to continue from the third game. Do not try to go before the first game either, because I don't think like trying to open up the like I don't want to end up in a situation where we hear this, we do this side quest in the like second game whatever, and somebody says something about place A. I don't want to be like, oh, you know, we're gonna open up what happened there. Like, just leave it alone and, you know, create a new story. And just...
Yeah, create a new story. I mean, this just means that Mass Effect 5 has to leave Milky Way galaxy. It just has to leave. Because nobody wants to go back to Andromeda if it's not done properly. So basically, just gonna have to create a new galaxy for the game. Because they've already established that the Andromeda galaxy has, what, 3 races. So basically you have to go elsewhere.
Right. And hopefully that they're not gonna like dwell on the fact too much either. Because if there's not like trying to reason it to like, oh, why this place is this and this. Just you know, like, don't worry about stuff like that. Do a galaxy, you know, put aliens in it, put humans there, whatever. And just, you know, go with it.
Yeah. What would be great, all in all, in the new Mass Effect game, would be if they would make it feel more of a role-playing game. Customization on your character, for example. Choose the race you want to be with. I mean, who wouldn't want to be Garrus Vakarian, the Turian sniper? That is also awesome character from the original trilogy. One of my favorites. So, just more customization. Freedom. More freedom. Because, well, while Andromeda has freedom, the areas you can explore are quite limited in a way. They're big, but they are full of emptiness. And what I have to say from Andromeda, to go back there, if they decide to implement driving with the Mako in the Mass Effect 5 game, please copy it from Andromeda and not game number 1. Because in Andromeda, it's one of the few things that works properly, is the driving, actually. And it's quite fun. It's quite fun also, driving around. But all in all, I'm not getting my hopes up yet about Mass Effect 5. But the Casey Hudson tweet, untold stories and so many ideas, it gives it that they are trying to work out a way to do a new Mass Effect game. But I think buyers from BioWare's side that the new Dragon Age game must be good.
Yeah, they have to sort of redeem themselves after the last
after 2 failed games. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be able to sort of with like E3 and stuff coming up, in whatever form it's gonna be streamed or whatever, considering the circumstances we're living in right now. But anyways, I hope we will be able to get some Dragon Age news, seeing that we got the teaser, I think, was it 2 years ago? It's like 18 or 19 Game Awards. There was like a Dragon Age 4 teaser. So we haven't really had any news on that part either. So hopefully they're going to be able to give us a release date soon, and we can start on seeing what we can expect from that game, and obviously see if BioWare has sort of learned their lesson and make sure that they take their time with the game. Like, don't just, you know, start like, I mean, obviously, like, they started with like Andromeda, like with the ideas and stuff. Yeah. Just remember to like develop it as well. Like, don't leave it to the last deadline. don't be like me when I'm doing homework. Like, don't start like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that and that day, and then just leave it all to the last.
Don't be like
deadline.
him when editing videos.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Upload it an hour before the supposed airing time. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically 2 hours before the up time when it's supposed to go up. He sends me a message. Now it's up.
Yeah.
Almost in bed at that time, and just sends me, oh, it's up there. You can go and do your thing. But it's still fun to work with you. But this has been great
Yeah.
start, and hopefully you guys have all enjoyed our little chat session. If you have any ideas for a name for this particular video thing, you can post it down below in the comment section, and we'll think about it. Maybe give some kind of a prize away if the name is really, really good and we love it.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Poor people, but anyways, do you think that's that? Have we done all we can to speculate Mass Effect 5?
Yeah. I mean, surely, like, obviously, we might like return to this subject in the future once we get like new info about the game and BioWare in general.
When we get information from BioWare, yeah, of course. When we get release dates and first trailer videos, yeah, we're gonna come back, no doubt about it. But yeah, next time in 2 weeks we're gonna talk about of 2020. Was that right? Do I remember myself correctly?
Yeah, just like games released and games to be released this year. We'll see what we fancy, and we're gonna talk about stuff like that. I mean, we sort of don't have this format like down to like a formula or anything. We're just riff-raffing here. We're just seeing what we're gonna be talking about.
But thank you very much for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.
Bye.